Hello and welcome back to another episode of a weekly waypoint where we are playing Halo for the first time in a while.
Apologies for what you're about to see.
Halo is one of those games where if you haven't played it for a year, then you're not gonna have a good time for at least your first match. But then in my experience, it has also always been a game where sometimes you just have really bad matchups and you're gonna have a bad time and it's kind of out of your control. But if I could assuage your fears for a moment, I didn't include the matches where I went 3-20. Okay, it wasn't really 3-20, but that's only because I lost count of the deaths. Recently in the weekly waypoint, I've been using it as kind of like a, hey, look at this game I've been playing, and then it's the background footage and I talk about the game for a solid 8 minutes or so. But continuing on from last week, the game I've been playing is Final Fantasy 16, and that's not a good game for background footage because it's, you know, everything you do in that game is pretty heavily tied up in narrative. I suppose I could go and fight a boss, but then the abilities that you earn are very much tied up with the story as well and would be spoilers. So you're getting some Halo today. If you want to hear my initial spoiler-free thoughts on Final Fantasy 16, I did go in depth on that last week, but this week I'm here to tell you that I've continued playing that game. I'm now 25 hours in, and I'm continuing to do all the side quests. I was going to say in all of the side content, but I've unlocked hunts, and I haven't done all of the hunts as I've been going. But other than that, I'm continuing my leisurely stroll through the game, enjoying the side quests, enjoying the kind of break in pacing and scope and scale of what Clive is doing, enjoying the world building elements of those side quests, and I think those slower moments really do enhance the greater ones. For anyone who wants a spoiler-free signal as to where I am in the story, oh god, how do I do one of those? Let me think. I've just done the fight that happens after somebody smashes a chair. There we go. Pretty sure I can get away with that. That was a really fun fight though, I really had my hands full with it. In fact, if there's anything that I just want to reiterate about Final Fantasy 16 this week, it's just how good the boss fights are, how fun they are. They're so empowering, they make me feel like such a gamer god, even though I'm doing them imperfectly. I watched the footage back and I'm like, oh, I dodged way too many times, I missed that obvious tell because I was tunnel visioning. But in the moment, I feel like I'm starring as the main character in a Monty Ohm animation. I did unlock the Ring of the Berserker through side questing. That's another thing, by the way, side quests give you some pretty good perks because that just happens to be the best ring in the game. I talked to my FC and I was like, why is this ring so good? And they were like, yeah, most of us wore it through the rest of the playthrough, and I can see why. It makes it so that when you do a perfect dodge, it slows down time and has an additional effect, which is a narrative spoiler. The ring says you deal increased damage for a short period of time. The effect is a little better than that, at least visually speaking. Anyone who knows me knows that I never finish an RPG in one sitting, as it were, and I won't lie, as much as I'm loving Final Fantasy 16, my brain is starting to go, I want to see what's going on over here, I want to see what's going on over there. That's what draws me away from games. It's not usually that I'm bored of the games I'm playing, it's that while I'm having a really good time with them, it's one flavour of a thing for an extended period of time, and I crave variety. That is the most succinct explanation of that I think I've ever given, but the funny thing that my brain's going towards right now is, and it did this when I was really into Final Fantasy 14 as well, it's like, I'm really liking this game, I want to see what's going on with other Final Fantasy titles. This is how you come to own most of the Final Fantasy series without finishing more than 3 of the games. But I've really been struggling with Final Fantasy 3, and I don't want to just put it down and give up on it because I want to play through every single entry in the series, but I do just really want to see what's going on with Final Fantasy 4. So maybe I just put down Final Fantasy 3 and come back to it another time. But I wanted to see them all chronologically, but I'm obviously not doing that because I'm playing 16, but anyway. Definitely overthinking this, but I might just start Final Fantasy 4 because, you know, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. You know what my dying thought would be? Damn, I really wish I'd started Final Fantasy 4. That's right, I am a gamer. I have priorities, damn it. By the way, if you have experience with Final Fantasy 4, let me know which version I should play because I do own 2 versions of that game. I picked up all the pixel remasters for free by selling my CSGO gun skins a few years back, and I was always a little disappointed with how homogenized the visual style of all of those games was, and I ended up picking up the Final Fantasy IV 3D remake, which is a port of the DS version, I believe, or the PSP version, sorry. Very different things, because there actually is a DS-only version in full that never made it out of Japan. Anyway, I've got the port of the PSP 3D remake version too, so let me know which one I should go with. I'm probably going to go to PSP one, because that does contain extra content. But I don't know, I might still hold off. I might still try and be a good gamer and stick to 16. Although when I say that, that is a lie, because I actually ended up buying the Sims Legacy Collection this week. Last week I said it was something I was considering, and this week I said Sul. That's a slur in Simlish, that's right. Every time you boot up the game, they're saying atrocious things and you had no idea. No, so this is interesting for me because I was never really the Sims guy growing up. The Sims was always my sister's area of expertise, but sometimes I would just draw up a chair and watch her play. In fact, I've been channeling my sister a lot this week. I've been messaging her and telling her about it too, because she was also super into Zoo Tycoon, and we'll pick that thread back up in a moment. But yeah, I used to watch her play The Sims. We started with The Sims 1 when that first came out because we're old, and then The Sims 2, and obviously we've had The Sims 3 and 4 since then, but while I think she did have The Sims 3, that was kind of, a bit later on in our lives. I wasn't just sitting by the computer watching her play it at that point. But I have meddled with The Sims myself a few times. When I saw that they had re-released The Sims 1 and 2 on Steam, I ended up downloading The Sims 4 and giving it a go just because I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't spend money on older versions of this game when the new one is available for free. I quickly learned that a lot of the criticisms that I've heard about The Sims 4 are true, in that it's just kind of it's got the Diablo Immortal problem, where I know that there is a free game in there that is worth playing, but it is so full of, by the way, the shop's over here and you can spend money on the game to get extra things in it, that it just has this pervasive ick to it that I can't overlook. So eventually I did cave and get The Sims 1 and 2 because I did check and they have been fixing a lot of the problems. People are still reporting problems, just so you know, buyer beware, but I haven't run into any of them so far. And growing up, we only had a few expansion packs for each of the Sims games, so it is interesting playing The Sims 1 and 2 with everything included. And by interesting, I mean kind of a little overwhelming and also tone-breaking in some respects. Because if you've ever owned a bunch of these wacky DLCs for The Sims, you'll know that you start up a new home or whatever, a new household. You move a guy in and you're like, okay, he's gonna make it on his own, he's gonna go get a job, he's gonna earn his way, and then you have a magician show up and give you a magic box, or you have someone give you a free computer for some reason. You have the ability to jump down a hole in the floor and go to this magical realm where time stands still. You get these weird visitors going past your door every 5 seconds, and it's like, could I disable some of these? No? Okay, I guess I'll just deal with it. But it is nice still to know that I have the full unrestricted game with all the bells and whistles. If I wanted the Sims 4 version of that, it would cost me wait, hang on, I can look this up. Oh, they've got a nice 30% off sale at the minute on a lot of their DLCs, so it would only cost me £854.53 to complete the Sims 4 collection. Anyway, I've put about an hour into The Sims 1 and an hour into The Sims 2. The Sims 2 is definitely the one I'm probably going to be spending the most time in, but I'm just happy to own both versions of them. I don't even foresee spending a lot of time in these games right now. I don't think I find The Sims super compelling in long-term increments, but like I say, I'm glad I have them, especially since I find it does make for some good content. Before we get too past the topic of The Sims, by the way, I did notice that the My Sims Remastered collection is coming to Steam, which is what I was hoping for when they announced it for the Switch, because I watched some reviews of the Switch versions, and the reviews were basically as follows. It's My Sims, the controls ain't great. If you don't know what My Sims is, by the way, it's this kind of... If you've ever played Disney Dreamlight Valley, I am convinced that they used My Sims as the blueprint for that game's design. Of course, it's a Animal Crossing style game, but more specifically, Disney Dreamlight Valley is extremely My Sims coded, in a way that I can't quite explain in words. You just have to go look it up, like footage of both the games side by side, I guess. But I was obsessed with the idea of My Sims when I was younger. I ended up getting it on DS before I ever got the PC version, and to my dismay, the game on DS is just a completely different game. Although I believe I did still enjoy the DS version, it didn't quite fulfill the fantasy that My Sims was selling. But yeah, it is like a little chibi Animal Crossing version of The Sims, but I've never really thought of it that way. I've always kind of seen it as its own game, but I've never actually got all that far in the game despite being really fond of it. Like, there are multiple areas you can open up and I just never really have. So I'd like to go back and do that. And technically I could download it on the EA app where I own the original version, but I don't know how compatible that is with modern systems, and it's the EA app. Also, this My Sims re-release or remaster, apparently they've upped the graphics. There's no noticeable difference, but it comes bundled with My Sims Kingdom, which I believe was a Wii-only game that I never got, so I do get something new out of this, to be fair. And I have always been a little interested in My Sims Kingdom. Is it Kingdom or Kingdoms? Either way, it's kind of like a medieval fantasy version of My Sims, and this is an extremely niche topic, so thank you for sticking around. You've probably never even heard of My Sims, but it's something I'm fond of. And I was excited to see that it's coming to Steam in March, definitely picking it up as soon as possible. Now, I also mentioned Zoo Tycoon, didn't I? Another game that my sister loved to play and I used to sit and watch her play was Zoo Tycoon. You've probably heard of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Think of that, but for a zoo. Instead of setting up rides and stuff, you are creating exhibits for these animals and making sure you are meeting their needs. You know, you've got to make sure they've got the right foliage, that they get fed the right stuff, all that kind of stuff. It's like the slightly less popular cousin of Roller Coaster Tycoon in many ways. Well, Zoo Tycoon is abandonware these days, and I really wish that they would re-release it or remaster it because, you know, I'm sure it was a fairly popular game at the time. There are probably lots of people with fond memories of Zoo Tycoon and Zoo Tycoon 2, which I preferred because, you know, the graphics were nicer. It's like the difference between a Sims 1 and a Sims 2, really. It's more 3D, and you can actually walk around your own zoo as a visitor. I love that shit. Well, I did manage to get a copy of Zoo Tycoon working, and I tinkered with it, but, you know, it is an old game, and I just mostly wanted to see what it was like for, like, a few minutes. I would honestly prefer a re-release or a remaster so I could have it in some kind of, you know, refreshed capacity on a platform I enjoy, with achievements and hours tracking and all that good stuff. In the meantime, I re-downloaded a game I got about, 2019, I think, called Planet Zoo. No, that's not it. Is that it? Is it Planet Zoo? That's a shit name. What is it? Let's have a look. Let's have a look together. What is it called? It's called Planet Zoo. I never realized how bad of a name that is. Anyway, Planet Zoo is made by the same people who do Planet Coaster. Once again, we've got shared lineage here. The spiritual successor to Roller Coaster Tycoon has a sibling, which is a spiritual successor to Zoo Tycoon. Are you seeing the pattern here? Apparently, it was made by a lot of ex-Zoo Tycoon developers, so it's basically Zoo Tycoon 3. I never put that many hours into it when I first played it, and I never touched it again for some reason, so I've been playing it again a little bit. And it's nice. It's just nice to have these games to boot up every now and again and tinker in. I don't think I'll ever be one of these people who has a 1,000 hour review of a Zoo Tycoon style game to give, but I do like messing around in them every so often. And I am glad that a modern version exists because God knows the Microsoft Studios version of Zoo Tycoon was a hit and a miss. Although it is on Steam and I am morbidly curious, I don't know. But yeah, in terms of Zoo Tycoon style games, I do like the fantasy of eventually building up to having this great big zoo with all these different kinds of animals, with all these deep family trees that I know the history of, with all their custom names and stuff. But ultimately, I think I just get a little too obsessive about the micromanaging side of things, and I make very slow progress in those games. You could argue I have the same problem with The Sims as well. I want to get married and have kids, and then, you know, watch that family go through several generations and know its family history and know the neighborhood and all that stuff. But I'm too obsessive about keeping this one guy's needs met. Like, I could take him to go and have a fun day downtown, but I really should have him looking for a job, and I'm worried about what if his bladder needs don't get met and I can't find a toilet downtown, or what if he dies of hunger because I forget to feed him. This might be indicative of my personality in real life as well. Let's not go too deep into that. Oh, I've also been dabbling with No Man's Sky this week, but like I mentioned last week, I think I'm still waiting for the expedition to come out before sinking too much time into it, because I like to explore new updates with new expeditions, and sometimes there's a weirdly long delay before the kind of update related expedition gets released, and it's kind of annoying. All the same, I know that the new content, or a lot of the new content, is to do with like a new quest line to unlock purple stars that you can only get when you've done the 3 main quest lines, and I haven't done that on my kind of main save that I've been playing, so I've been slowly working my way through the Artemis questline. You know what you realize your second time through the Artemis questline? Boy, is there a lot of tutorial attached to that story. Yeah, we're gonna find Artemis, don't worry about it, but you can't be doing that when your base is like that. You gotta go hire a science specialist. Why? I don't know. Now that you've done that, go do this other thing. It's like, okay. Anyway, enough about video games. What other media have I been consuming this week? Have I been breaking down and absorbing into my very being? Well, as of the time of recording, I just lost my Evening to the Sun Eater, the third book in the Sun Eater series, because I was like, you know what, while I'm just lounging here, waiting for this video to render, I'm gonna go open up Kindle on Chrome and just read from my PC, and I blinked, and 3 hours passed, and I went, oh, there goes my evening. Not that I'm mad. Stuff's going down in the story. I'll talk about it when I finish the book and put out a full spoiler reaction video to it. But I am about, well, I know I'm exactly 66% of the way through Demon in White because the Kindle percentage tells me so. So anyone familiar with that book will know what I am referring to. I gotta say though, the structure of that book is a little all over the place. It feels less A to B and more A to B, and then A to B, and then A to B, and then A to B. It kind of feels like just a collection of a bunch of things that are connected, but it doesn't feel like one great big part of his life like the second book did. Anyway, sorry, we'll get into it. This week I also finished my rewatch of Daredevil. If you would like to hear my full spoiler thoughts about that, there is a handy dandy video for you to go and check out. There was also a kind of madness which came over me, and I uploaded a dumb little skit video of Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock if they bumped into each other in Aldi. That's got over 1,000 views now, so there's that, once again proving YouTube's law being that if you put less effort into something, it will do better. Jokes aside, I'm pretty pleased with it though. The reception's been pretty good, so hey, that's good for my ego and bad for comedy. I am now watching through Echo reluctantly because I'm just not super into stuff that the MCU's been doing recently, and let me tell you, the first half of episode 1 of Echo is a goddamn mess. We'll get into it, but it does look like it took some sort of form by the second half of the episode. I should continue watching it. But yeah, I really hope that the writing on Daredevil Born Again is at the peak that it was during the original Daredevil series, and not with some of the stuff that the MCU's been putting out recently. Not everything's been bad, but it just, I don't know, there's a certain staleness to it that I'm not enjoying. I am looking forward to the Fantastic Four movie though. That trailer was cool. Anyway, if I sound sleepy, it's because I'm sleepy, so I'm gonna leave you and I'm gonna go get some sleep. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a good day, and I will catch you in whatever I make next. Oh, here's something silly that happened. Whoa, what the fuck? What just happened to me?